And I was laying there in meditation one night. I started out doing TM, and then I went to do Vipassana. Vipassana is watching the breath and the energy of the breath coming in as you breathe in through your nose, and the energy of the breath going out. And currently, I always bring in the prana, the energy from God, and then I release anything that's negative, and I uncreate it. I don't leave it sitting there for somebody else to pick up. So as I breathe in, I bring in energy from God, and as I breathe out, I let go of whatever's not perfect and uncreate it. So I was doing this one morning. I usually wake up every morning at 3 a.m. and I get messages. And in this morning, I was doing my breathing, and I was told to open my eyes up, and in came floating this human in the yoga position, with his legs folded and his hands out like this, and he looked at me, and it looked like Maharishi Mahesh Yogananda. And he said to me, "Go to Fairfield and detox my people." And then he loaded out. And I was like, what the heck was that? And because he didn't say where Fairfield was, and I didn't know where Fairfield was. I mean, there's Fairfields in about every state in the union, And I got up that morning and ate breakfast. I went to work, and the first call I got at work was this lady by the name of Janet Schwartz. And she's married to Fred Schwartz, who's one of the main accountants in town, and they're both, been TMers since the 60s. And TMers means Transcendental Meditators. And I had helped her detox and lose weight. And she said to me, "Scott, I've got 18 women here. We want to fly you out to Fairfield, Iowa, and have you detox the people. Detox us and help us lose weight." And I was like, my God, that was my second witness, and usually we get 2 witnesses for things we're supposed to do, and if we don't listen, we'll get a third, sometimes a fourth, sometimes they'll use a hammer on us. But, so anyway, I made plans to go to Fairfield. And I was planning to go to Europe and practice as a medical doctor because, I wasn't making much money, and, I'm not getting any younger. And I figured I better go make some money so I can at least put away for retirement. And so I was making plans to go to Europe and get a job in the south of France. They love U.S. medical doctors because, we're pretty well trained, and I thought, I've got other gifts that I can help people with, and so anyway, I went to Fairfield with the intent. I had up on my vision board, I had this board of goals, and one of my goals was to make an extra $10,000 in cash to go to Europe. That's quite a goal. And I would read it every day, twice a day, and my whole intent was to get enough money to go to Europe and become a medical doctor there in France. And so anyway, I went to Fairfield, and I ended up not seeing just 18 people, I ended up seeing 108 people. And that's a very powerful number. And so I made $10,800. So, those vision boards work. Let me tell you, they work. And so anyway, and I had some beautiful experiences. I started detoxing all the people and came to find, Monsanto has all these farms around Fairfield, and they're doing all their experiments with all their genetically modified foods, petrochemicals, different things. They're experimenting there in southeast Iowa. And see, and I knew about Monsanto, so I knew some of the stuff that comes off of those things was getting into their water, getting into their food, and they were consuming it. A lot of people were having neurological disorders, getting cancers, getting chronic arthritis conditions, arthritic conditions, inflammatory conditions, which these things cause, you know. Just because we can, you know, it's like Jurassic Park. Just because we can do it doesn't mean we should do it. You know, God, when this earth was created the finest foods, the best fruits, the best vegetables. And here we are, humans, thinking we can make things better. But the fact of the matter is, we've actually created monsters. Kind of interesting. And so when I got done at Fairfield, many people continued on the detox programs, and they were doing very well. Systemic Formulas came out with a detox program in the fall of 2010. Maharishi came in January 2011, so I was doing this detox on a lot of my previous clients, and then I started doing it on a lot of people in Fairfield. They started getting well, and so they really liked me. And when I went to Europe, I had a very interesting experience. I kept wanting to go into France, and some energy was keeping me from going in there. And in Budapest, I had a very unusual thing happen. I decided to go to Eastern Europe because it was cheaper, you know, to tour around. And we ended up in Budapest, and we stayed at this hotel, and there was this guy sitting down in the hotel, and I was kind of attracted to him energetically. And I looked at him, and he looked at me, and I thought, you know, this is stupid. I'm here with my family. I'm going to go upstairs with my family. So anyway, I went upstairs, and then I came back down to get them some breakfast and bring it back up to them. This guy was still sitting there. And he motioned to me, come here, I'll buy you a beer. You know, and I was like, he's friendly enough. So I went over and I sat down with him, and he started talking to me. And he said, I know who you are. You're Scott Werner, you're a medical doctor, and you're wanting to move to Europe. And I said, yeah, you're right. Do you have a job for me? He says, no. I'm here to tell you, we don't want you. In fact, if you move here, we will kill you. I was like, you were kind of friendly before, what's going on? And he told me a little bit about himself. He was a part of the Golden Dawn. And he, in fact, was the leader of the Golden Dawn, and he was Egyptian. And he had gone to England to incorporate with the Golden Dawn, which he thought was benevolent, but when he got there, they incorporated him, and he actually became a dark wizard because there was more power in the darkness. And he said, you have too much light, and you've chosen not to follow the darkness, so we don't want you here. I was like, okay. So I thanked him, and you know, in my own kind way, I just kind of put up a barrier between him and I, and we, you know, continued our touring. And when I went to the south of France, it was really interesting. I finally got in, and we went there, and we went to Mont Blanc. It was a place that Vicki had saw on a vision that we should go and check it out, and it was really beautiful. I can't remember the name of it, but I've got too many things in my head. But anyway, we went there, and everybody was so rude, and you know, it was like another indication maybe we shouldn't go here. So we came back to the United States, and I continued doing what I was doing before. Now, 3 years passed after that trip. I had gone back to do the ayahuasca, and nothing, you know, no further direction from that experience. However, we did do something called San Pedro, and that was fascinating because during that experience, I got what you call X-ray vision. And I could actually look into the rocks and see what was inside of the rocks. I could look into people and see what was inside of people. And it was quite a fascinating experience. And I still can do that when I focus back on that energy. You know, it's not something that just goes away. And so I did experience something good that second trip. But when I got back, I went to Fairfield again 3 years later. So this is 2014, April 2014. And I gave a talk. And the people who came, they said, Scott, we're all getting sick again. Monsanto is starting to teach the agronomists to put 20 times the amount of Roundup on the plants, on the harvest, to desiccate it faster, so that it doesn't have to sit in the fields and get rained on and get fungus. They've taught the farmers to do this. They can put Roundup on and harvest it right away because it sucks all the energy right out of the plants. And they have built these silos east of town that they would put the grains in and the crops in, and they put them on the train there. But as they were putting them in, this dust would come off and just literally filter all over through the town. And they were all getting neurologic diseases again, you know, all the things that we had helped them with, they were getting back. And they said, what do we do? And I said, I don't know, but I think we're going to need to evolve, is what I said to them. So anyway, that's where this book came from, by the way. St. Germaine.
Scott, can you go back to that book? I didn't get.
Oh, sorry. I think I can go back. Let's see. I'll go like this, and I'll go like this, and I'll go like this. Okay, so we're back at the beginning. So,
No.
yeah, it should go back to the beginning. There we go.
Oh, okay.
So anyway, I used to have a clicker, and I used it to go back and forth, and it disappeared. So this book happened after that visit. I had the question, what do we do about all the petrochemicals, the toxins, the nanobots, the radiation that we're being exposed to? Because back then, Fukushima was still spewing out radiation and causing troubles, and you know, it raised the temperature of the Pacific Ocean 1 degree. The whole dang ocean. I mean, it's quite interesting. But anyway, by the way, the higher beings who are here in their spacecraft have actually stopped a lot of the radiation spillage from Fukushima. And this lady calls me up on the phone one day and she says, Scott, go outside and tell me what you see. Because she's a psychic and she went out and she saw some stuff going on. And I look up and there's this great big spacecraft, and there's 24 little spacecraft all around it, and it started putting out this green stuff. And I believe in telepathy because I've used it quite often. And I said in my mind, who are you and what are you doing? And they said, back to my mind, we're the Arcturians, and we're cleaning up your atmosphere of all the pollution and chemicals and toxins and radiation. And all of a sudden, these other 24 craft started putting out this green plasma-like stuff. And I said, well, thank you for doing this. And they said, we'll be back because we would like to see you and talk to you. And I was like, okay. So I talked to the gal who had called me. I said, what had happened? She said, oh, thank God, I thought I was going crazy. You know, seeing this stuff going on. And later that night, our house, we built above our bedroom a flat area that you could go up and look at the stars. And I went up there because I was wondering if they were still out there. And I went out there, and the big ship was right above our house. And they said to me telepathically, we would like to bring you on board and do a healing on you. And I was like, whoa, this is cool. And I said, okay, let me go tell my wife. I went downstairs, and my wife kind of freaked me out. She said, Scott, what if you never come back? And I was like, oh, you know, and I went into fear. And I went back up, it was gone. Because they sensed my fear, and they knew I wasn't ready. It kind of made me feel bad that I went into fear. You know, because we're human. We goof ourselves up a lot going into the fear. And so, anyway, later, the reason I go into that is just because we get information and we need to stay out of fear. Fear is our enemy. Fear is the opposite of love. Fear is the opposite of faith. Fear is, how the Arconians and the Anunnaki control us. And they feed off our fear. And that's why they're trying to cause us chaos and fear all the time, is because that's the energy they feed off of. So what I learned from this was to be persistent, determined, consistent in your questioning. Dedicated, consistent, have faith, belief, and make the actions. So I would pray every night for an answer to what we should do about this problem we're having. Of the chemicals, the radiation, all the petrochemicals, toxins, nanobots. I first learned about nanobots about 14, 15 years ago. They actually were developing them clear back, in 2002, and they had developed these little nanobots that they could inject into your body, and they were programmed to go to the heart and the blood vessels in the heart and clean up the veins and arteries. So that, arteriosclerosis, they'd clean it up and your heart would get the blood flow and you wouldn't need open heart surgery. But then the hospitals started complaining because it only cost about $2,000 to inject this. They make about $150,000 per open heart surgery. So you don't hear about these little nanobots anymore because they didn't make the hospital systems enough money. They'd rather crack your chest open and use, it's crazy. I actually assisted some of those heart surgeries, and I was amazing how cavalier, and usually they'd use these buzz saws, and it was quite the deal. And everybody that comes back from those has some deficits. About 50% lose a lot of their memory because, when they're converting them on the heart-lung machine, their brain goes without oxygen for 3 to 4 to 5 minutes, depending on how quick they are. And so, anyway, so I'm praying, I'm persistent. I ended up going to Mount Shasta, and I had the most wonderful experience there at Mount Shasta. In fact, when I went to Mount Shasta, Marilyn Harper, who channels Adirondack, said to all the people that night, and I love to astro travel, so she said, go to the Jade Room and get a healing tonight. And it's down with the telos. And so I was like all over that, And so I astral traveled to the Jade Room, and it was very cool because we were laid on these tables. They were quite big tables. They were longer than I was. And these huge humans were over us doing this. And they looked like Nordics and about 14, 15 feet tall. And I woke up that morning just feeling great. And then I wanted to go up and find the entrance to the telos because I wanted to go down and, experience them in person rather than just astral traveling. And I had seen a vision of the entrance. And I didn't know it was up on the mountain at the time, and I was down at the bottom, and I started searching all over the place for the entrance, and I didn't find it. I couldn't find anything that looked anything like it. And so I went back to the springs of the Sacramento River, the headwaters, because I was told it was the headwaters of the Sacramento River. And there was this guy down getting some water. He had a hoodie on, and he looked almost like he was a homeless guy. And as he came up, I kind of took a hold of him and I said, hey, where's the entrance to the telos? And he just started laughing at me. He was quite fascinating. And he said, it's not down here, it's up at Upper Panther Meadows is what you're seeking. And you go down and about 200 yards to the northeast,